ABC News correspondent James Longman. You've written a memoir about, I mean, it's beautiful. It really is very gripping. It's your family's history with mental illness. What did you discover about your family? You lost your father when you were very young and away at boarding school. How did you go about writing this book, and was this the kind of book you wanted to write?
It's corny, but everyone says this, like, they've got a book in them. This was always the book I was going to write. My dad had schizophrenia, and he ended his life when I was 9. His brother also had schizophrenia. My grandfather also ended his life. My mother has clinical depression, and I have had deep sadness. So you wouldn't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that I find life maybe sometimes a bit tough, but I wanted to know what was really going on a genetic level. You know, we all kind of talk in these kind of, sort of general ways about, family patterns, but I wanted to know, in our DNA, was my code written for me to experience depression? And I also didn't know anything about my dad. I wanted to go on this journey to find out more about him as a person, because, when someone dies, it's the only thing anyone ever knows is the suicide. Yes. I wanted to build up a picture.
And you were so young, and you were at boarding school, and then you went right back to boarding school.
Yeah.
And I think that what was so interesting, what I took away, was that when you started experiencing bouts of sadness or anxiety, you thought, maybe, oh my gosh, is this the beginning of my fate or my destiny?
Yeah, is it inevitable? I had a really big sort of depressive moment when I was 26, and which was last week, it wasn't.
They actually believe that? You do look 26, so it's not as funny as if I say it.
Okay, fine. I was really in it, and then I got better. I was happy to get better, and then I thought really deeply about what actually happened to my dad. So I researched him. I did that. There's that show, Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah, of course.
It was a bit like that. I was going to the library. I was finding articles about him. And
it's amazing that you found all of the medical notes.
I got 120 pages of his medical records, and I tracked down the people who looked after him. And there are a bunch of reunions in the book. I found the woman who wrote the notes on the day that he died to say that he had died, and I found her, and she lived 20 minutes away from me.
It's wild.
Wow. And she came to my front door, and I opened it, and she just gave me a big hug. And it was like meeting a family member. Beautiful.
Interesting is how they see your father's face when you answer the door, because you look so
like him. Yeah.
Like each other.
And what's going on in science now? What kind of research has begun? And what are they starting to discover?
Yeah, I really wanted to make sure the book was about the science as much as my own story, so people have something to take away. There's been so much research done in the last 5 years on genetic research. They have found groups of genes, genetic variants, which code for depression, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. These are not things that they'd even found like 10 years ago. What's more, they're really getting to grips with epigenetics, which is, if you think about our DNA, the balls on the helix, we all inherit, a code, but that's only 2%. The other 98% is the software which activates that hardware. And you can do something about changing the way you activate that hardware in your life.
The nurture versus the nature.
Absolutely. You can make changes which will alter the way that your genes activate. And I think that's tremendously empowering. You can inherit trauma, but you can also inherit healing. And I think that's amazing, because it gives your children the chance to break these patterns. There's also a lot of good work being done on genetics, which will mean that our medications are a lot better. There will be a lot of people watching this now who are on antidepressants, and they will know that their doctors have just given them pills to see what works, like trial and error. One day we'll be in a place where, because of our genetics, these pills will be tailored for us. And that, again, I think should give people hope.
It's a beautiful book, and congratulations. The Inherited Mind.
Yep, The Inherited Mind is available wherever books are sold.